Hi everyone, this is Kathya. Welcome back to my channel. Thanks for stopping by. I wanted to share these two cards that I made and several others that I will not be sharing with you today. Just a couple of pictures of the background, but I completely took this card making in a completely different direction. So I'll share all that stuff with you. But to get started, I used this background stamp by Justrite called Secret Garden. And I've had this in my stash for a while, I just have not broken it out. So made by Justrite, and what's cool is that is a hard piece of plastic that the stamp comes onto, and it's a neat way to store it too, and it just gives a whole impression of the stamp so you can see what you're actually stamping rather than looking at the stamp on the actual stamp itself. So to get started on my stamp positioner, I used a Versamark ink, but I first stuck the paper, the cardstock, down with some repositionable adhesive so it's easy to pick up right off of that stamp press. Doesn't leave any residue. In fact, it was super easy to clean up. So here I'm grabbing some liquid platinum embossing powder by Ranger. And I didn't mention this earlier, but before I put the embossing powder down, I did use an anti-static tool. So you can use like the thing called the Embossing Buddy or an anti-static powder tool. So here I'm funneling back the excess embossing powder into the container. This is one I did with the embossing powder that is by Wow, and it's a copper color, and it's really pretty when it's all melted. I'll show that to you in just a minute. This is one I did with Ranger, and I believe the embossing powder is called Princess Gold. And again, I'll have all the embossing powders listed for you on my blog. So I melted all of the embossing powder, and I love the effects on white, but when I was heat embossing this, my thinking was if I do color on this color, the entire panel is going to be extremely busy. It's going to all clash. So I decided to go a different route. So I experimented with some of my own embossing powders on different colored cardstock. So you can see that one in the blue right there. And I made my own embossing powder by putting glitter in it, but it was a little too busy. So then I just decided to use straight embossing powder on a blue card panel. And I really love the effect of this, but I wanted to bring out the flowers a little bit more. So I'll show you what I did. So I'm going to funnel this back into the container. And when I heat embossed this, I really loved the results of the silver on that blue. And so I also did one like on a turquoise color. And so you'll see here when I melt this embossing powder on the blue panel, it really is striking. And I loved the effect of this on the blue paper, but I really wanted to bring out the flowers a little bit more. So all I did was take corresponding colors that were just a little bit, slightly bit darker than the actual blue panel of the cardstock itself. And all I did off camera, and I didn't show this on camera, but all I did was go into all the little grooves of where the flower petals were, and I colored with a little bit darker of a blue to bring that out, and blended it with a little bit of a slight shade of gray. And you'll see what I mean here when I show you the whole panel after it's all done. But that really added a little bit of depth, and it really didn't draw your eye away from the whole card panel itself because I wanted that to be sort of the star of the show. So I melted all the rest of the embossing powder, and I just loved the simplicity of that gorgeous silver against that blue. And I'll show you the rest of the card panel here in just a second, but this was so stunning. It just takes your breath away when you melt the powder on something that's so spectacular and that much detail. And I loved that panel, but when you look at it on a card base, it looked a little flat. So here it is with a little hint of the blue just around the leaves and the petals, and I really think that added just a little something. So here's the other one I did that is in that turquoise color, sort of like a seafoam green, I should say. Here's a trick. I took two pieces of cardstock that were fairly thick, and I glued them together, and then I did the cutouts with my love die on both of these panels. So instead of cutting out 6 panels, I only had to cut them out 3 times. The reason I like to do that is because the cardstock that I'm working with, I believe, is 65-pound weight cardstock. And when you take 2 panels and you glue them together, either you take the adhesive like the runner I'm using now, or you use liquid glue and you let those pieces sit together, it makes the cardstock a little bit bulkier. So instead of having to cut and adhere 6 of those pieces together that are flimsy, you get a little bit sturdy of cardstock, and you only have to do that twice and glue those pieces twice. So that just made it a little easier and faster. Little tip that I wanted to share there. So I cut out 2 heart shapes out of vellum and then 2 smaller ones that nest inside. And I wanted to hide the vellum behind that one heart that I was going to use as part of the focal point. So it's fairly straightforward to make sure that the vellum is covered with the adhesive right strategically behind that white heart panel. So that's what I did. I thought that made it really easy. And then I went over here and just put some adhesive on the back of the white heart that I'm going to be placing right in the center of that vellum heart. And you can see there I got a little bit of schmutz on the side of the heart. I was trying to toy with trying to get that adhesive off, and I thought, well, what the heck, I'll just put the heart down and then I'll take an eraser that I have that's specifically made to get smudges off of marks that you have on your cardstock. And that's exactly what I did, a mono eraser. I tell you, these guys are a little bit long for the weight to get in the mail through Amazon, but super well worth the wait. They get off every little smudge and save you a lot of work on the end. So here are the 2 love-shaped dies that I have. And all I did was layer those 3 pieces together, and they're already bulky enough as it is because, like I said, I took the 2 pieces of cardstock, glued them, let them dry, and then I ran them through my die cut with the word die love. And all I had to do was adhere the 3 pieces together, and it was just easy as a piece of pie. So I'm adhering those together, and I also did the same thing by placing the love die in the center of that heart on the blue panel as well. So I jazzed it up a little bit by putting some sparkle pen using my Spectrum Noir Sparkle in Clear on both of the love die words as well as some enamel dots. So here is the blue one that I'm working on and adhering that down with my glue pen. Just as easy to do. If you have stick-it paper, that makes it a little easier. However, I'm really not very good with having placement the second I put something down. You'll see me here tweak with the word, and then I use both of my hands to kind of fiddle with the word because I wasn't sure that I had it in the place that I wanted it. And some glue seeped out of the bottom. And I think if you're really good with the adhesive sheets, like Stick-It or an adhesive piece of tape, then you're better off. I like a little bit of wiggle room. So here's the finished panel with all of the adhesive dots that I put, or enamel dots that I put down. And this is the sparkle pen that I used to kind of dress up the die. And I did this twice because I wanted to up the sparkle factor. And I think it really just adds a lot of glamour to this card. And it's really busy, so I tried to keep the front of the panel very simple. And I could have put a smaller sentiment underneath the word love, or even on the top that says something like love you or love you so much, but I decided to keep this simple because there's so much going on this card, and I didn't want to take away and detract from the card panel because it's extremely busy in my opinion. So I figured I would just put a sentiment on the inside like love you so much, or I really love you, or something like that. I think I'll give one of these cards to my mom for Mother's Day. So I decided to keep it extremely simple. So here are the final 2 cards, and I think they turned out really nice. I'd love to hear your thoughts on them if you've tried something this large with background panels, and let me know what your take on them is. Anyway, I hope you get inspired. I hope you guys have a great crafty day, and thank you for thumbs upping, liking, and commenting on my videos. It means a lot, and I will catch you in the next video. Ciao for now. Bye.